There are several associations between salt and Sedom. The first of which, as Sedom is being destroyed in Parshat Vayera, we read about Lot's wife turning around, Vatihi Nitziv Melach, and she becomes a pillar of salt. A great image which is the source of many a Parsha project in our elementary schools. Why salt? Chazal explained that there was a midah keneged midah, sort of symmetry here, in that Lot's wife sinned through salt and was therefore punished through salt. How did she sin? When Lot invited the angels or the messengers or guests into his house, Lot's wife went around saying to her neighbors, I need to borrow salt because my husband invited guests into our house and I need to feed them nicely. Of course, this was really a way of spreading the word that her husband had violated the community norm, which prohibited having any guests. And so Lot's wife got her husband in big trouble by using the request for salt to entertain the guests. And this, of course, prompts the mob to surround Lot's house and demand the release of these guests. So that's the first association between Sedom and salt, that was a midah keneged midah for Lot's wife. That's why she was punished and became a pillar of salt, because that's how she sinned using salt. The second association has to do with Melech Sedomit, which the rabbis explain is the rationale behind Mayim Achronim. The Gemara in Chulin says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rechia, Mipnei ma amru Mayim Achronim chova. Why is it that Chazal instituted the washing after the meal and before Birkat Hamazon? Shemelach Sedomit yesh, because they used to eat with this very powerful salt in their foods that would get on their hands, and yesh she misama et ha'inayim, that if this residue remained on their hands after the meals and they wiped their eye, it could cause blindness. And so as a preventative measure for the purposes of health and physical well-being, they would wash that melech sedomit off their hands. If this was the impetus for Mayim Achronim, then it seems to be specific to that era in which the substance of melech sedomit was used. And indeed, Tosfot on that Gemara in Chulin says just that because the rationale or the reason is no longer relevant, therefore we don't have to do Mayim Achronim anymore. We just have to do Mayim Rishonim. We wash before eating bread, but not at the end of a meal. Many of the Rishonim object to Tosfot, and Lahalacha, the Shulchan Aruch, says that we still should have the minhag of doing Mayim Achronim after a meal, and even the Mishnah Berurah says that the Ashkenazic practice, which usually follows the Balei HaTosfot, is that it's not obligated, but it's still preferable to try and do. Rav Kook offers a beautiful explanation for why Melech Sedomit is not a historically specific concern, but actually is one that still resonates with us even today. He says in Einaya, and I'll read a translation, that Sedom is typically associated with self-gratification, a sort of indulgence in the material world. And there is a certain spiritual peril that exists whenever we eat. Our involvement in gastronomic pleasures inevitably increases the value that we assign to such activities and decreases the importance of spiritual activities. As a preventative measure, Chazal decreed that we wash before eating, and performing Netilat Yadayim imposes upon us the imagery of the Kohanim who would do so. They would wash their hands before eating the Truma, and the physical meal that we are about to partake in should then take on such a spiritual dimension. Despite this preparation, before the meal, our involvement in the physical act of eating itself inevitably reduces our sense of spiritual awareness to a degree. And so to counteract this negative influence, we wash our hands after the meal. And with this Mayim Achronim, we cleanse and wash away the salt of Sedom, meaning the residue of selfish preoccupation in sensual pleasures. The dangerous salt which can blind our eyes to the needs of others is rendered harmless through the purifying ritual of Mayim Achronim. I hope this beautiful explanation of Rav Kook on Mayim Achronim can help inspire us to perhaps try to do Mayim Achronim at our own Shabbat tables. I'll see you in Shul.